In a very short amount of time, Raptors head coach Nick Nurse has become one of the most recognizable coaches in the NBA. He's established himself as one of basketball's most creative minds, and he's become somewhat of a celebrity in Canada in the process. Which makes it all that more interesting that there are so many rumors swirling around that Nurse and the Raptors might split up this summer, and that Nurse might be headed to Houston to coach the young Rockets. But how did we get to this point? Why is this something either side is even considering given how fruitful their relationship has been? Let's look at it from both sides. The Rockets are dealing with a coaching conundrum of their own. After a disappointing couple of seasons, Stephen Silas was let go following the final game of the regular season, which leaves the door open for someone to take his place. At the top of that list, according to Shams Charania, is Nurse, who spent 2 years from 2011 to 2013 coaching the Rockets' G League affiliate team, the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. So there's obviously a relationship there, but why is it such a possibility that this could happen? Well, it wasn't, or at least from the outside perspective, people thought it wasn't, until Nurse was asked about his future.
I think when this season gets done, we'll evaluate everything, and even personally, I'm going to take a few weeks to see where I'm at. Like you said, where's my head at, and just see how the relationship with the organization is and everything. It's been 10 years for me now, which is a pretty good run. And I don't know, over those 10 years, we got to be up there with some number of wins with anybody in the league. I don't even know where that is, but we've had a lot of good seasons.
Okay, let's look at this from all angles. And before we do, I have to stress, assessing coaching from an outside perspective is a hard thing to do. I'm not in the arena, I'm not at the games or the press conferences, and that makes it nearly impossible to give you a full observation of how Nurse is as a coach. For the most part, I only know what the public knows, but still, that is enough for us to read the tea leaves on the situation. From Nurse's angle, it's fair that after 10 seasons with an organization, 5 as an assistant coach and another 5 as the head coach, you want to assess your options. Especially when you have 1 year left on your contract and are looking for an extension, which is what the Raptors can do for Nurse this summer. From that perspective, you can understand Nurse getting antsy about the possible contract negotiations because based off his resume, he's worth a lot on the open market. He's one of 5 coaches in NBA history to win a title in their rookie season, alongside a stacked 2019 Raptors team led by Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, and Pascal Siakam. Nurse wasn't just a participant, but he was instrumental in helping the Raptors win in those playoffs, scheming up creative ways for Toronto to stop guys like Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and most famously, throwing out the highly rare and unique defensive scheme of the box and one against Steph Curry in the NBA Finals. He followed that incredible season up by helping the Raptors to the second best record in the East as defending champions, despite the departure of Finals MVP Leonard, and because of that, was awarded Coach of the Year in the process. And despite a season in Tampa Bay where the Raptors let go of the rope, Nurse has the best winning percentage as a coach in franchise history. He's also, in a very short amount of time, entrenched himself into Canada's basketball culture, becoming the head coach of the men's program and becoming a bit of an actor and rock star. So with all that being said, with the resume Nurse has built up in his short amount of time as Raptors head coach, you can understand what he's doing with his comments, applying pressure to the Raptors front office to pay him for what he's worth. Now let's look at it from the Raptors side of things. Despite Nurse's impressive resume and his ability to quote-unquote get the job done, his abrasive attitude and approach at times isn't for everyone. For starters, he's not afraid to call out his players publicly to the media, like here, or here, and here, and also here. And maybe most notably, an incident that happened in the Raptors' Tampa Bay season with Toronto's all-star Pascal Siakam, who got quote-unquote personal with Nurse in a heated exchange in the locker room. And once again, reading the tea leaves here, those are the only incidents that have been reported and are out in public. So you can imagine what might be happening behind the scenes. That aspect only becomes more heightened when the team on the floor isn't performing to its best abilities. And this season, that's been the case. After an impressive year where the Raptors finished with the 5th best record in the conference, Toronto came into the season with the most continuity out of any roster in the NBA. That continuity, however, didn't translate. The Raptors struggled all season and finished with a 41-41 record, good for 9th in the Eastern Conference. Is that necessarily Nurse's fault? Well, no, not really. The Raptors have an inherently flawed roster, one that has some serious holes in it when it comes to their guard rotation, the overall lack of shooting on the team, and for the majority of this season and last, they played without an actual center. Trading for Jakob Poeltl did help, and the Raptors have looked better, and at the very least more consistent defensively since then, but the results haven't mattered because 1, it was too late into the season, and 2, there's still tons of roster problems that they have to address, as I mentioned above. Could Nurse have been better with his rotation decisions this season? Could he have given the young end-of-bench guys like Malachi Flynn, Delano Banton, and Jeff Doughton Jr. more opportunity at the start of the year? Sure. Could Nurse have maybe established a more open work environment and been less haste with his comments about the players to the media? Okay, sure. Although again, from my perspective, that's hard to assess. But it's also hard to say that Nurse is the reason the team is underperforming. After all, he's proven that when you do give him an adequate roster, even one that doesn't include a top 5 level player, he can win you some games. The truth is, and this is abundantly clear in all professional sports, but the coach is always the scapegoat. The first scapegoat, I should add. The front office doesn't want to take the fall for building an incomplete roster, and it's much harder to blame the players who are working with the pieces they have, which makes it very easy to blame it all on the coach. In fact, some of the ambiguity of coach, the unknown, the fact that most fans and people outside of the organization don't exactly know what a coach does for a team on a day-to-day basis makes it much easier to put the blame on them. That isn't to say that's what's happening in this situation with Nurse and the Raptors front office, but it is what usually happens, especially when a team isn't living up to their expectations. The first domino to fall is usually the coach. And maybe more importantly, if Nurse has somehow lost the locker room, if his players have tuned him out, then maybe it is time for a change. A change that can possibly be amicable for both Nurse and Toronto. Regardless, Toronto has tons of questions they have to answer this offseason. Between Fred VanVleet, Jakob Poeltl, and Gary Trent Jr.'s free agency decisions looming, to the Nurse situation and the overall outlook of this team. The Raptors have tons of pressing matters they need to attend to. And while Nurse may be on his way out, it's tough to say he's the root cause of the problems going on in Toronto. But maybe he's just a symptom of a bigger issue. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button and make sure to check out our other NBA videos as well. Take care.